Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come.
Yes, welcome. Hello to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 124th show. My name is Lisa Burton, and I'm a heart-centered lifestyle coach.
And I'm Rosemary Lachance, and I'm a Reiki energy healer and a spiritual developer.
We are the co-hosts for this thought-provoking series.
Therapist.
And are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their field. If you know of any subjects that you would like us to discuss, or if you know of anyone who you think would be an interesting guest, please do let us know. And also please like us on Facebook, under Healing Outside the Box, where you can learn about and see pictures of some of our past guests and ask questions or leave comments. So enjoy the show.
Okay, we've been on hiatus for a month and a half, so we got to get in the groove again.
Yeah.
All right. Tonight is our 124th show. The title is On the Edge of Reality, and our guest is Colin Andrews. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you very much,
Welcome.
Rosemary.
Oh,
Nice
wonderful to be
back.
here. This is our second show with Colin, and he's been more famous for coining the phrase crop circles. So I'm going to give you a little bit about his bio. Colin Andrews is an electrical engineer by profession and former senior official in British regional government. He is a visionary and 30-year veteran investigator of unusual phenomena. He is best known for his work with crop circles, a term he coined in 1983. Colin is responsible for discovering the correlation between patterns of radar, interference, and weather conditions in Australia, where weather modification projects are underway. He is currently involved in investigating consciousness and non-ordinary reality. He is the author of 8 books, including The Complete Idiot's Guide to 2012. That's great. And The Akashic Record with Cynthia Andrews, his lovely wife, and has participated in numerous television programs and documentaries. He has acted as advisor to several movies, including the Mel Gibson blockbuster for Disney called Signs. He also advised Queen Elizabeth and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's cabinet on the crop circle mystery as it was unfolding during the 1980s. His work can be viewed at www.colinsandrews.net. Colin has received a number of awards of recognition for his work, and we'll give you all his contact information at the end of the show. So we don't have to ask you how you got into this. That's what we usually do with our guests, but that's not necessary. So we're going to start with, well, we do have this, your background. All right, tell us your background, how you got involved with this work.
Well, as you were saying in setting the program up, I'm an electrical engineer by profession. Mm-hmm. And I had, back in 1983, about 200 government people under my management. And I was on my way to a meeting, just a regular meeting, in July 1983. And I just happened to make a casual glance. I was on high ground with my motor car, and thinking about my meeting that I was going to in one of the offices there, close to Winchester, the ancient capital of England, before London took that role. And I looked left out of my motor car. I was on high ground, and there in the field, in a very bright golden wheat field of ripened plants, were 5 circles forming a cross. And I took another glance to the left to reassure myself that that's what was there. And I mean, it's literally true to say, Rosemary, that one hears this kind of thing said from time to time, but that my life literally changed in a casual glance of half a second. I stopped my motor car. I looked at what I could see, and I was late for my meeting. I walked down the hillside through some barbed wire that the farmer had around that field, and walked through the standing crop, which was, you know, on now level ground, because I was at the bottom of the valley, until I could make my way towards where I remembered it being roughly in the field. You can't see, when you're
on
flat
level ground, yes.
Right. So eventually, I just walked through into an opening, which was extraordinary. There were no tracks in the field apart from mine, that I'd come into the field. And I could hear, as I stood there quietly, looking at these spiraling plants that spiraled, flattened, I could hear the plants were making a crackling sound. Mm. And I stood to try and observe what this was. And the plants would appear to have not been in that position for very long. They were attempting to come back up, unravel themselves, and come back up. And for each one that managed to do it, to lift itself back to the sun, there was a very small click. And it was this click, 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 click going on, indicating to me this doesn't happen very long. So, cutting the beginning of this story short, that was the beginning.
Wow.
I returned and I had a privileged position with many contacts in the military and the police and other organizations, and I started making inquiries and found very quickly that this was not a one-off. Farmers, including that farmer, had them right back fairly safely, we can say, into the mid-20s, 1920s.
Wow.
Well before the public are generally aware. People that dig into it find this out, but those that have seen the television, seen the hoaxing, seen all this stuff, are not aware that this has got history. So that's where it began. I was then asked, I had a tap at the door one day, and it was a military person. I had done a little bit of television by that time, and the name and the phenomena, the mystery, was just beginning to lift and take away. Media started to get very interested, and this military person asked me if I would supply some technical and reports, scientific reports, then to Margaret Thatcher's cabinet, to the Secretary of State for the Environment. And that was then the engagement of the government themselves. I then went on to advise the Queen and a number of other royal family members on the subject. That was the beginning, and since then everything's changed. I'm in a different land. I have a different job, this job. I've lost many friends because my whole family is 5,000 miles away. Mm-hmm. And that's really a huge price to pay for something that drives me, that I am aware of a lot of things, most of which is public, some of which is not. Information that's come out in that book has never been known to the public before, and there's more to come, that I know and have been touched by the hand of something very peculiar. And I know that something important is happening. I said that nearly 30 years ago with events that had happened, some of which have now been reported, and we're still on the path, we're still on the track. We are now at the crossroads. This is what was seen to be coming by information we were getting, that there would come a time of general chaotic I'm not going to say collapse, but a reorganization and a transition that was ahead of us. Well, that was 3 years ago. We are now there. Mm-hmm. We're on the threshold of a new reality, hence on the edge of reality. So that was a long opening, but that was really the beginning.
You have yours here. Hold that up.
Yes.
This is the book, and that we were talking about tonight, On the Edge of Reality. I'm sure they can see. Yeah, there you go, just like that. That Colin just finished writing. It's a wonderful book. I got mine, and I couldn't put it down. And it's going to open a whole new world for you. So I hope you'll buy this book. I mean, that you literally changed your life. You knew nothing about crop circles. You knew nothing about what's going on at all. And how do I get research? How do I do this? It's amazing. You had to be picked for this. You had to be handpicked, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Something happened to me when I was 5 years old.
5?
5 years old, yeah. Twice, and that again, I hope I'm not repeating this too often tonight, because a lot of things are new. A lot of things are being said for the first time. This is the first television interview since the book was published yesterday. So
Yesterday, oh, wow.
yesterday. So you are the very first, and what you have in those pages and what I'm able to tell you tonight is this is the first time this public information has been made available like this. And so what I have kept to myself for reasons of professional reasons and for my own credibility and the job that I was trying to hold down in Great Britain at that time, I did not disclose what my doctors know and my family know about what had happened. And what happened, which is fully described in the book, which perhaps had some setting up of a landscape for me, I don't know. I don't want to take that too far because I don't know why this happened. But what happened, briefly, was that I was asleep. I was 5 years old only. So this was in the early 50s. And I remembered, this is the part that I literally remember, and the rest of it, which I'll explain, came out during hypnosis by Dr. Jim Harder, who was then working for the US government, who also is the person, the scientist who regressed Travis Walton, and a name that has just completely dropped out of my head.
That's okay.
It'll come back in a moment. Barney and Betty Hill were the other people. These are two very well-known cases of abduction by extraterrestrial. They were some of the first people to be regressed to discover what had happened to them. Well, this scientist also, unbeknown to the public, regressed me also in the presence of Cynthia in Branford, here in Connecticut. And
This was long after this happened?
this was a long time after it happened. What I remembered, that's the literal physical memory, and I always just explain this to people at the time, my family, that I was having, I thought, a dream, was that I felt a tugging at my solar plexus, and suddenly I was floating, and I elevated up just underneath the ceiling, and I was looking down in the bedroom of my younger brother and my sister, and I moved forward. I completely out of my control. I knew this was nothing that I was doing. In fact, it was numbing and frightening. And I reached the edge of the room where the wall was, and for me, that's where my actual memory ends. The hypnosis, which went on for 45 minutes, that felt to me like 5 or 10 minutes. I went through that wall, I guess in a dematerialization kind of process.
Yeah,
we
spirit.
can only guess at it. But as soon as I was at the back of the house, there was a very bright white light, and it was in a field at the back of the house, and I was taken, just literally glided straight towards it, and I passed two military people, human beings, who were extremely serious. They were very cold. They looked like they were concerned or very engaged by what was happening, because I passed them. I went one either side of me.
They didn't see you.
Oh yes, they saw me. They were outside of this bright white light, but they were looking at me in such a hard fashion that they didn't seem to feel like they had any compassion. Oh. It was a job that was being done. And as I went into the bright light, it was extremely bright, brighter than these studio lights by a lot. It was almost like a welding torch. But the moment I went in like that, it was very pleasant. It was a golden amber light, and I rotated around like this and over and down onto a single aluminum material in one. It was a molded plinth, like a shoe hob, and I came down onto the top of it and was facing a being who was stood facing me, and this entity had larger eyes than ours, not very hugely large, but they were larger than ours, filling the entire well of the eye. And it said to me in my head, I don't recall any movements of anything. It was just simply in my head. It said, we're very sorry to be doing this, but this is for a future time. And from there, I was given a lot of information. This all came out during the hypnosis, but the point that I think I perhaps should terminate on, because all of it is in the book.
It's in the book, okay.
But the nub of this is that I was given information. I was told about Cynthia's father when he would pass away, and that he would be a bridge at an interface between what we are doing and where he is now. And I was given very important information, which we flew back to England once the professor had written all this up, and went to the place, which was my old home, which I hadn't been to in over 35 years, 45 years. And this is what I was told. In the regression, it was all completely clear again, that there would be an oak tree amongst many trees, but there's one oak tree. This was in December that we flew back. The leaves were off the trees during the winter. One oak tree, and at the base of this tree would be two plants, a bluebell and a primrose, that the biologists would be able to monitor for the literal physical health of our planet. And we went back. I took cameras with me and people to record this, so that it wasn't my word as I'm giving it to you now. And there was the oak tree with the odd straggled oak leaf still on it, brown, ready to drop, but it's still on the tree, confirming this is an oak tree. This is where I walked straight to it. I mean, I knew exactly where I had to go. And going to it, I come straight to where the light was, and there is this, still to this day, we have had aircraft over since, but a perfect 35-foot diameter ring is still there to this day.
Ring around the tree.
A ring where the light was that I went into. And the plants are growing much darker on this dark ring. So we had confirmation that what had happened as an experience, part dream, first part, second part hypnosis, that the information that was communicated during that process, that hypnosis, was confirmed on the ground some little while later. So that was the start. And you were saying about, kind of, you could read it as, are you chosen for the job, or is it you're meant to do it? I would, of course, because I don't see myself as any different to anybody else. I know I'm not any different to anybody else. What I've done is I have searched for truths. I am a person that cannot let go when I see misjustice, a lack of compassion for people and for plants and for animals. And I guess it's what drives me forward to try and, as best I can, complete this journey for myself. But as I said, that's the front end of a lot of that's had to be written up to allow us all to see what's actually happening here, what's happening beyond the television headlines of hoaxing. It's what's happening also to those people making crop circles that is being completely missed from those headlines.
Well, to go back for a second, we don't have to be special people or have any titles or have any kind of money or have anything. The simple people are the ones, if you look back in history, are all the ones who were chosen to do certain things because of the heart, because of what you just said, not being able to let go of those things, right? That's not being able to let go, knowing that you're going to get this done because it's in you, and that's why. That's a beautiful story. Can't read more about it.
Well,
I'm sure our listeners will. Plus, anyone out there who may have had an experience of sorts won't feel so alone,
No,
knowing, you know.
No, thank you.
I think I can talk to somebody now.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, if I may just add to
Sure.
this, the fact that I had held so much in for so long, and at every interview I ever did, throughout all of those documentaries and all the rest of it, I would often be asked, you know, had I seen UFO, had I had any experiences, and I never lied about it, but I didn't offer that side. You know, I felt strongly that we've got to hold in that earlier part of this work. I had to hold the ground, you know, with credibility, at least, you know, as a scientist, engineer, you know, doing this work, that at least we would be seen as somewhat sensible. You know, it's only been at the back end where other things are happening now to a lot of people that I guess I should just say this. I was asked to present 3 years ago in Washington, D.C., and I was in the shower in Guilford, here in Connecticut, washing. And this has only happened to me a handful of times, but when it happens, I know something's going on. And I got information. I was in the middle of a shower, and something told me, you have to relate this experience now. And it was emphatic. I thought about it. I knew what it was telling me, and I headed to Washington, D.C. with a different package than what they thought I was arriving with. And just as if it was a confirmation of an angel of some sort in that audience, Cynthia was with me down there. You know, her as witness, plus others who won't come forward, who came up to me before my presentation. There were many CIA and other intelligence people there, and he came straight in front of me and said, looking beyond my eyes into my head, he said, you know what you have to say now. You know what has to be done. It was like, wow, this is peculiar. And all I did was to transmit back to him, yes, I do. And I did. And what happened from that moment on, from that presentation to others that have followed, is, as you rightly say, others that your viewers will know, the people like Stephen Greer, Stephen Bassett, many very well-known people in the research of the UFO in particular, all started to tell their own stories of a part of them that had not been disclosed, changing the entire environment, embracing and including what was always been there, but is now setting itself up. You know, once we have to imagine things and then embrace them and believe them before we can manifest them.
Right. And
that is now, I am convinced, what now is happening. And with it all, as anything that changes in a kind of an infrastructure of many complex systems, new phenomena occur. Things that we have spoken about, spirals in the sky, voices that are coming over electronic equipment. I've been working on it just in the last 7 days. Voices that are coming through particular frequencies in particular equipment here in Guilford. There are large-scale experiments that have been done in England, Luxembourg, and Germany, and those too are referred to in the book, setting the stage for what is to come. It's going to be a very different world, with new technologies, with new spiritual content to our well-being and our thinking, and a coherence of love that must be, there is no choice in this, as you know. This must be the way we move forward. We're on the crossroads, and there's no way off but forward in a much better, more positive, more female, biased society.
So can I just ask your insight to the unrest in Egypt and that part of the world? Is that what you're referring to also, that they're asking for change? Or are you talking more about the United States of America and our structure of society?
I'm talking about all structures.
The world.
all infrastructure, whether it be political, religious, whether it is our population, whether it is the way we deal with materialism, you know, our support for life, whether it is human, animals, you know, the planet, all that we have worked with to sustain life thus far, as far as the human side of this is concerned, it has been driven by, it would seem, a desire by at least leadership of major countries, major governments, for ownership, for control, for power, and clearly that has led us to this crisis, along with other things that we don't understand and we have no control over. You know, there's a lot happening right now. This day, in fact, 3 or 4 hours ago, NASA reporting a very major CME at the peak of cycle 24 with the sun. This is the solar cycle.
CME is.
Yeah, tell our viewers what a CME is.
Yeah, this is a coronal mass ejection from the sun. The sun itself goes through cycles of 11 years, where sunspots is what we visually see. They drop away to a minimum for half that cycle, and then they begin to become visible, certainly through satellite technology and through magnification systems, magnifying systems. And so NASA have been watching very carefully what's been, you know, happening at the peak of this current cycle. That has been predicted for quite a while now as being well, potentially precipitating a problem on Earth installed electrical grid systems. What that effectively means, and you know, as an electrical engineer myself, it's something that we all the time have to be aware of. It's called Lenz's law, and I try to keep this simple, is that when a conductor, we'll call that a piece of copper, passes through two magnets or a magnetic field, it actually induces a current inside that conductor. What's happening with the sun is that it throws off electrified plasma towards us, and that happened a few hours ago, and a particularly large one, towards the Earth. And then when that electrified field hits our magnetic field, which is reducing in its strength, that's been happening for quite some time, we are due ourselves for a pole shift. The sun itself is doing the same thing. It's within a few days, a few weeks at most, but for its own magnetic flip. And when it does that, the ripple and percolating effect, electrostatically and plasma-wise, it moves throughout the entire solar system. That does not mean, I should say to the viewers, that this does not mean that we're about to, you know, to die, or a collapse in our entire system. But there will be Aurora Borealis, there will be effects on the grid system. The worst possible scenario is that we have a collapse in the grid system, and it would take a while to reconstruct transformers that go open circuit. So I'm sorry if that was a little bit complex and kind of went off at a tangent, but it is one part of a great deal of things that are changing. It's just one of many things. That's why we had to try and you know, put the book in such a constructed fashion that people could gently come through it with experiences people are having, you know, at the personal level, and stitch them all together. Information that was coming through EVP, not that these are mysterious voices, whether they're soul spirits from the deceased or other entities, whatever or whoever they are, we have information. And so it's piecing all of that together. What did the crop circles tell us? Well, we had information, very specific, decoded from some of the crop markings. We had a voice come over a television broadcast, a news broadcast in Great Britain, independent television news, in 1976, way back then, in what was to become, before it became, the epicenter of crop circle activity, the largest area of activity in the world, within 40 miles of Stonehenge. And that transmission came in, it broke in, thousands of people heard it, I was one of them. And it warned governments, it spoke to the people watching the television news. That recording is available. You can see it going through my website. All of this is available. And again, there was a consistent message. There was a consistency throughout all of those sources that said that we're entering this period of time that we're now in. This has been going on for 30 years. And whilst the media in general have been, the question they've asked has been a question that a lot of researchers have limited themselves to, understandably, and that's, is the phenomena itself real or is it a hoax? And if both things are happening, which are real and which are hoaxes, that regrettably misses the most important question, which is, embracing all of it, is there something that's happening to the people involved in making them, researching them, finding them, with those that we can't explain? And the answer, after all these years, started with work that I was doing thanks to funding from Lawrence Rockefeller here in New York. In 1999 and the year 2000, I coordinated it was then a confidential, secret, you might say, investigation into people making crop circles. And what came out of that was that the people making them are having exactly the same experiences, interactive experiences, as people like myself in researching them. And the very specifics of what I'm talking about, again, we've gone to great pains to pull out solid cases that have witnesses to them, which are simply unbelievable. These are experiences where suddenly somebody will, as I did in my shower that I've just related, I'm sure a lot of people watching would have had similar experiences, when this particular person that I'm now referring to is a person who has been making crop circles. He was watching television himself, and he got this, what he describes as an urge. Well, this is, this is the intuitive. Something's in contact with this person, and he sees a pattern in his head. It was actually a small version of the flower of life, very sacred geometry. And he was prompted to make it, and not just make it then, right then. He sat there and thought that he could make this alone. A lot of people find this very hard to believe. But he went out, he got in his vehicle. I have the surveillance material to support this. He went out, he drove where he was prompted to go, because he went where he felt to go, where he took his motor car to. And he came to a field, this is late in the season, several years ago. He stopped his vehicle, he walked into the field, he could hear some voices. And he stopped, he did a little process himself, which he does, a little prayer, meditation. Suddenly the temperature dropped, and we know a lot about that, and have been working on it for a number of years. There was a severe temperature gradient, and the moisture was condensed out of the air, which caused a fog to appear around him. He constructed that design in the field, not knowing, and nobody knew for several days, that the voices he was hearing was a group of 11 women who had themselves decided to go out into the same field behind some 3 trees that this is, I believe, in the book. It is in the book, but the actual locations are on my website. People can go and have a look at. They were meditating, and it was not a planned thing. They meditated on a design, and they asked, and I've personal experience of this myself, they asked for this pattern under deep, sincere meditation from that deepest part of your being, for that design to appear close to where they were. They thought and requested a flower of life design. This guy was the receiver, they were the transmitters. These are the 2 human types that we have in our society. And what they didn't know, nor he either, was that he manufactured what they had asked in that field. At that time, I mean, minute for minute, it's right on the button. And I can give you many other, I'm allowing you to move on because there are many other extremely similar stories. We've been in aircraft and done the same thing. Under the aircraft, what we have discussed as two private individuals, me in one seat, passenger seat, pilot in the other, and we'll make a comment, which I'll leave for people to read in the book. I don't want to spoil it for them. Very complex, extremely complex discussion about patterns, and below the aircraft, within 24 hours, the next time that aircraft went over that exact spot off the end of the approach to a major airfield, was the very pattern that we had discussed. It had never appeared on planet Earth anywhere at any time, and it appeared underneath the aircraft and related to what we were talking. You know, I think we said last time, and I'll stop at this point because I, you know, holding some of the points too long, was that it has been with us for many years that something was looking over our shoulders. Invisible most of the time, and little prompts, you would know that something somewhere is listening to you. Something knows what's happening.
I have a ton of questions came up in my mind, but I wanted to say that you say 30 years ago. 30 years ago, when I was searching about the meaning of life and where my place was and so forth, and I came up with it, finally was led to this group where I got all my answers from. And then we were told at that time that what you just said was going to happen, and that we would be, as they were in contact with, you know, our brothers and sisters from other planets, and they were saying that they were going to help. When the particular time came, they were going to help. So between them and whatever the angels, the spirit beings, and our brothers and sisters from other planets, all together would be helping us with this. And you're right about the polar shifts, the change, everything that you said, I had heard myself 30 years ago.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So,
I mean, it feels good always to me to be understood.
I know. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. That this is what's been happening. I think people like ourselves, thinkers outside the box, I've experienced this, you know, in my jobs, have had a hard run. And the hard run, because it's still happening to some degree in the media in general, is that we are prepared to think outside the box, you know, and evolve towards the information where it leads us. And unfortunately, you know, society in general has been so structured and engineered that certain words, you know, are put out there very deliberately to curtail development, you know, that curtails our consciousness being evolved. You know, that some terms like terrorist, conspiracy, UFO, these are very deliberately engineered into society to curtail the enthusiasm of people that wish to follow those routes. It opens doors for the control of the people when there's a hard day coming for the old crew. It will take some courage, I think, in the part of some people, those that find themselves in a difficult, you know, frontline position with intelligence agencies and agendas that are not disclosed in an honest fashion to our people.
No, they want to keep us in the dark.
Absolutely in the dark.
Definitely.
But what I am encouraged by, with the help that we've been given with these last 3 books, help that has come right off of that screen. It has been really extraordinary. We call them the angels. We don't ask for it. Where we have difficult information to confirm, where we need our sources, it's come onto my email just like that. When I've needed it, you know, often supplying it to Cynthia to write in. And a day ahead, times when I've said to Cynthia, I'm not the expert in this particular field that we're looking at, I can't get to the sources, you know, and boom, there it is. So I would say we're being given a lot of help.
Well, go ahead, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask you to define consciousness from your perspective.
It's a great question, and it always comes up because every person that answers it differently. And in analyzing and assessing, I know deep inside me what I see consciousness to be, but almost every time it comes out of my mouth in describing it, it comes out in various fashions. It's very hard to say. What I would say, the simple way to put it through my synthesis is that it is the intelligent part of intelligence. It's where emotion and action manifest through the life force of an intelligent construct, and that it is a permeable, connected system which connects everything that is alive. It is, and there's a lot of scientific support for that, because you may well be aware of the brain neurological experiments that are going on at University of Berkeley, where they're looking at the motor neurons and the mirror neuron connections between individuals. And it's simply staggering that each of our motor neurons are networked between one another, and that at some level, it's all scientifically proven, again it's on my website, that I will know up to 6 seconds ahead of your next question or your next answer, whatever it is I'm relating, from my side to you. And when you ask me a question, a yes/no answer, my motor neurons and your motor neurons, up to 6 seconds ahead of the actual answer, knows what it is I'm going to say. Now that's proven by it's a technical way that they have discovered on coloring the groupings of the motor neurons, so that they show up yellow, for example, in this equipment, with your yes answering, positive yes answering to any question, and that says no has an energy to it, whether it is a no related to anything, and that is already biased in the motor neurons for the mirror neurons, because my motor neurons is what commands me to speak. So you ask me a question, and before my motor neurons are in command of what I'm going to say to you, all of our mirror neurons have already had the conversation, which raises a lot of questions. It raises, are we in control of the agenda? Whose plan is this? And where are the commands coming from?
I was trying to relate it to telepathy.
Yeah.
Does it validate telepathy?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening at the moment in the work that's going on in CERN is looking for the God particle. That particle which is in control and communicates over time and space is nothing. So that the telepathy, the ability to read and remote view, and I'm a remote viewer myself, I discovered by accident years ago, but it's shocking what we are all capable of doing and knowing. As you were saying with telepathy, totally valid. There are many experiments, many excellent remote viewers. We go into some detail with a case of, perhaps I should relate this very quickly, if I may. Please tell me if some of my answers are too long.
No,
We've got about 20 minutes, so I want to make sure we get as much as we can.
So I'll taper them back. Many of your viewers will know Annie Haslam of the Renaissance group of some years back in Britain, now living in this country. Well, I know Annie quite well, and without going through all the detail, she took some photographs of the very severe snowstorm we had a couple of years ago. She lives in Pennsylvania, but they and we here in Connecticut had this very heavy snowstorm. She'd taken a picture out in the backyard, and on that photograph was an extraordinary disc, and with all kinds of apertures and coding and stuff. I instigated a particular research and got optical experts, a lot of experts around the world, to look at this.
Was it like an orb or different?
Yeah.
It's like an orb?
Yeah,
Okay.
very much so. Structured in a ways that I've not ever seen before. And we did a lot of work for about 6 months. All the obvious questions were asked: reflection in the glass, and this
Yeah.
kind of thing, because it was dark. Well, it was the afternoon, but it was illumination levels were down. Well, this is my point about telepathy and the abilities that we all have. In my team, and I'm pleased I thought to engage, it was Dr. Simeon Hine, the head of one of the institutes for remote viewing. And he did some work. What he asked me to do was simply place into an envelope the question. Whatever question, whatever it was I was wanting an answer to. He was given no information. The others knew what it was they were looking at. They were looking at the optical information, on this photograph, taken with a digital camera. Simeon remotely viewed an envelope sat in my office in Guildford, North Guildford. And what I got came back was one of the best remote viewing results I've ever seen. He had others to look at it and confirm it. And what he came back with was a sketch of what I had in that envelope. He came back with some terms that upset Annie, because I was keeping everybody informed, when this result came through. Others, including the optical expert, thought that this was absolutely one of the best UFO photographs that he had ever seen. This is a naval optical expert, the US government. And here the remote viewer has gotten it absolutely off, with the details correct, with the colouring correct, the overall shape correct. And he says to me in his writing that he's getting, take care, be careful. This could make you look bad. This is not real. This is artificial. And this is all coming through remote viewing. And I relate that out to Annie and to other people. Anderson Cooper on CNN it was due to be an interview with him and Annie and myself in Arizona within a couple of days of that result, of making it public, what this was. And I relate that to Annie, and she came back to me crying to say that she had stood at the window again and turned lights on that she'd forgotten that she had on, and indeed in the window, which was where the reflection was that she had captured in her camera, was exactly the UFO, which was the reflection of a light fitting in another room back at the back of the house through an open doorway. You would think that would have been something that could have been easily and obviously picked up, but that's the value of what we have available to each and every one of us, which I know you are aware of. But this is where we are, and that's what really and truly the book is all about, is having the confidence to embrace what it is that's coming towards us. And there's a lot coming towards us.
So, what do you think your mission is?
I'm retired now officially, although of course I work as hard as I ever did.
But you have great concerns for the future, so why don't you just step back and enjoy the pleasures of the world?
Yeah.
What is your feeling, your mission?
My feeling is there is another project is coming to fruition within the next couple of weeks, and I will keep you informed of that, which will be known about. And it is to assist those that feel threatened of being left behind. As Cynthia says quite regularly, nobody needs to be left behind. We will move forward together in understanding each and every part of this. There is a better horizon with a few stumbling blocks between this day and that day, and certainly by the year 2033, as has been indicated, I don't think we've got time to get to that point exactly, but by 2033 we must have reached that coherence throughout society, throughout our planet, of respect, compassion and love for ourselves and for our planet. It, as we, are in pretty, I don't like using the term dire straits, but one only has to look at the information to see that climate change itself,
Right.
of which I'm very closely plugged into, is very concerning. Very concerning. We have a population of 7 billion now that cannot be sustained further. We must change the technologies. We must work with nature, and we must respect what it is we are doing with nature. I mean, we could go on and make that a whole another program. But so for me, my mission from here, I'm working with state government here and back in England, and it is to assist our public, our people, to move into a very critical climate, global warming period, and to understand what else is happening. Phenomena that have been currently tagged as paranormal or supernatural, that they are all natural. This is what has always been here, but has been missed or misunderstood. So this is the time. I, of course, would say, financially, of course, I'm going to say, read the book. But what I can honestly say, and I hope we know one another, is that I've often shot myself in the foot financially. I was advisor, as you know, to Mel Gibson's Disney movie Signs, at the same time as I brought out a book, which was Crop Circle's Signs of Contact. Mm-hmm. I knew that what I was disclosing on BBC television in the year 2000, that 80% of the crop circles in a 2-year period in Great Britain alone were made by people. I knew that that was going to be a disaster for my own book, written with Steve Spignesi. But it had to be. I also was given instructions, and I will put it that way, from a voice which will cast me in with many people as being a crazy. These are things I've never said before. I've come this distance by keeping that secret. I am saying it now because we are all getting this happening to us. I was told, I was just about almost asleep in my daughter's home in England, after we were almost buttoning this project up, being funded by Lawrence Rockefeller in New York. We had undercover people working on the hoaxing problem. We needed to separate this. We
Right.
needed to know what we had.
Yeah.
And I literally was told, there was a voice that came into my head and it instructed me, just as I was told to disclose what happened to me when I was 5 in DC. This said I had to announce those results immediately. And what it did was it put me for at least 10 years, that was 2000, we're now 13 years ago, where I received hate mail, very well-known people I won't name, that are out there, they're international figures, that went on television and radio programs saying that I was a CIA informer or operator,
God.
that what I was doing was lying about the crop circles, saying that there were 20% were man-made, when in fact what was happening, if I really cut it to the chase, spirit, our angels, the angelic world, was saying, tell the truth. Tell the truth. There is no need for myth making. We simply have to deal with what we've got as fact and tell the truth. Well, the truth which people didn't want to hear, because there was a new religion being born out of the crop circles. This was Mother Earth, and I believe she is indeed involved. But we also had to make it clear that there was another element, which was the conversation within humanity of people researching them, honestly. I'm only one of many now. And people deliberately deceiving us. These are sometimes people with a uniform on for military. These are sometimes guys that are coming out of a pub drinking. These are sometimes very professional artists. But the conversation with those people, which is what I did in 2000, when I was told to make it public, not to hold any part of that back, speak it, and I spoke it. And the next day, that was less than 24 hours after being instructed to do so, it was being bounced by satellite out of a live broadcast in London where I was in front of the television camera. And then for 13 years, the conversation began. And in the book, for the first time ever, are conversations with people who have been doing things secretly behind the scenes, which is an important part of our conversation. What it really says is there's good in all. This is really, if you look at the analogy, there's good in all. When people go out there and make them, they often go out because they've been instructed also to do so. Those geometries, and this is my engineering coming in here, when you look at, we'll just say, 1 million cereal crops, 1 million wheat plants. Now this can be canola, this could be tobacco, wheat, barley, oats, trees. Now when these plants are upright, they're surrounded by air. Now there's a certain electrical property to that. This is kind of capacitor, but I won't go into the technicalities. But what happens when an energy field, we believe microwave, is applied to these plants intelligently and drop them down to the ground in round about 10 seconds, whether simple or more complex, you have a design. Or if somebody is instructed or has an intuitive feeling to make something and stomp them down with their feet or boards, whichever process, put those plants down there, we now have an electrostatic effect that has manifested itself. The pattern, which is measured in the Earth's magnetic field, mimics the pattern in the field.
Right.
So
we're running out of time. This is terrible. You're so busy, and I'd love to have you come back a few more times.
I'm so sorry that it's gone so quickly.
No, I know. It's so fast. I don't know what to say. So many more questions. There's so much more to talk about, but I hope that they'll get this book and learn for themselves.
Answered,
yeah. All right, we're going to give your information and our information. Contact information for Colin Andrews is just www.colinandrews.net.
Yeah, it should be colinandrews.net. It's written C-O-L.
Oh, yeah, C-O-L-I-N.
Yeah.
Andrews. It's been typed up wrong, so make sure you look for that. COLIN Andrews.net.
And to learn more information about this show or any of our past shows, please visit us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com, or to reach Rosemary Lachance, her phone number is 203-627-7966. Her website, www.rosemarylachance.com. To reach me, my phone number is 203-804-0024, and my website is theonejoycenterforwellness.com. We are also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box.
Okay, the quotes for tonight I'm taking from Colin's book. 2 very short quotes with a powerful meaning. One of them is, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds," and that is from Albert Einstein. And the second one is, "When we truly understand that love is the only force, all life is family, and Earth is our mother, we will find peace," and that is from Colin's wife, Cynthia. Wonderful, wonderful book. Wonderful, wonderful people.
Thank you.
And I hope we get you back again.
Thank you.
Where's the book available?
It's available in most stores in the next few days, but
Okay.
certainly Amazon and Barnes & Noble
Okay.
are available now. Thank you.
Good.
All righty.
Good.
Okay, we're going to say good night now.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed. We're dreaming.